Hi, hello. It felt like we sort of began in the before beginning.
Mm.
Um, and is it okay, Marvin, if I relate what we were saying in the
Sure.
before the group? Um, Marvin was saying uh that the paper that I sent you sort of is it's a very difficult thing to do, to have conversation across difference. And Marvin was saying that the big difference between him and I is that I start with the passion for the ideas and then have the experience, and he likes to start from the experience of daily life experience and then generalize to the ideas, get at the ideas that way. And I was saying that's sort of like Jean's zigzag, where you could start from the conceptualization to the experience, or you can start from the experience. Um, and I was saying that that's maybe one of the differences that's just coming to light, or coming to light more clearly, that we're trying to talk across, is the difference between the people that start from their life experience in their personal lives to what those experiences make, or the people that start from an idea, like let's talk across difference even is an idea, and then see how that manifests in experience. Roberto, it's so good to see you. So let's just give ourselves a chance to see what anybody else comes with, because that conversation is sort of picking up a thread from last time. But let's see if there's anything else that people want to start with.
Well, if anybody else read the paper, I read the paper.
Marvin read the paper.
I think it would be great to discuss things in the paper.
Gosh, I haven't read it yet.
I didn't see the paper.
Just read the conclusions. That might be enough.
I wanted to read the paper, but I had no time. Just, I just saw it this morning, I think, late morning.
I sent it to you at the last minute. We can talk about it when enough people read it, that or Jim can tell us the conclusion. But I don't think everybody will want to read it. It's not, some people will want to read it. But
I was interested, and I'm interested when you, what is it? You provide us with, some reading material. If people want to talk about it, I would be willing to hear it and give my input based on what people are commenting.
When did you send it?
When did I send it?
I think yesterday.
Maybe
Yeah,
end of
yeah.
yesterday.
I just found it. Yeah.
But even if, I don't know if everybody would be willing, but I love that Jim is excited about it and was like, I want to talk about the paper. So maybe even as a teaser for those of us who didn't get a chance to read it, or some people, as you said, Lynn, might not want to read it, maybe Jim could share, like even read a little portion of it and tell us what he's interested in about it, because that will make me that much more excited to print it out and read it.
That sounds good to me.
I'll say the following about it, and that it's really about it answers the question, what are we all doing here, that everybody asks all the time. It's about the origin of force and why Lynn started force and what it was like to start force and what happened in the initial meetings and some analysis of how things happened and why they happened. You know, so here's your teaser.
A good one. You know what intrigues me? It answers the question of what are we doing here that we have beaten our heads about.
I wouldn't mind talking. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm using a different headset.
Yes. Go ahead.
Also about belonging and what belonging means and when do we feel like we belong and
Mm.
yeah, that would be interesting to me. And I have some pictures to share if we do that from a book. That's kind of maybe a jumping off point.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And Annette, you were also going to help us talk about the strand from last time of talking across that difference between the conception and starting from the daily life experience. So maybe we can weave that in there too.
Yeah, great.
Going to start with the pictures? Or your thoughts about belonging?
We could.
Yeah.
I think if we do that, I need to be able to share my screen. Okay, do you see the two yellow pictures?
Hmm,
Does that work?
yes.
So these are from a book, from a little series, and I forget the author and the school that's done these, but this book is on belonging and designing for belonging. So I'll just let you read it and take it in. But they had these two pictures, one of what belonging feels like. And I think the word that's not here that they have, like they had a quote in the book and it was something like belonging feels like being seen and heard, but also feeling safe. They don't have the word safe here.
Hmm.
And then they were contrasting it with what othering feels like. And I just happened to be reading this after our last meeting. And I'll leave it up for another minute and then I'll take the screen share down. Just if you're still reading. And it was really resonating that, so to share a personal experience, was that it felt a little bit like my creative self was being asked to be smaller in the last meeting, that I was inferring or interpreting some of what some people were sharing about process or what we share, concepts versus experience, as diminishing myself, about hiding parts of myself. And that didn't feel like belonging. Stop the share, maybe.
It felt in it like the price of belonging was to make yourself smaller or to hide yourself, your real self.
But it felt like I was being asked to do that, and that didn't feel like belonging.
Right.
Yeah. And one of the quotes I like is by Brene Brown, and she says something like, you know, fitting in is like matching the group, whatever the group says you need to do. And belonging is getting to be yourself in the group. Something like that. I'd have to look it up.
I'm certainly
And-
glad that you weren't going to do that. I think other people have felt that way too, like there's some requirement to hide parts of yourself or not be parts of yourself. I sound very, very, very done here, but
No,
could you say something about what was said that gave you that feeling? Just so I can,
Some of it was, I can't remember the exact words, but it was something about, when Susan and I met and talked about it. So some of it was her sharing her irritation last time about the conversation we were having, which I helped create by my sharing. So it felt like the sharing about concepts and
oh,
talking about ideas was irritating. And I was asked, like, if I'm irritating, then it kind of feels like I'm being asked to be different and not do that, which,
mm,
and also the discussion about the format, about, like, it felt like if we were to pick a very specific format where people need to share a certain kind of content or experience, that would also mean, like, if I come today and I want to share an idea, and the experience, what we're doing is sharing something that happened to us that's more lived experience, then it also feels like not being invited to belong just as I'm showing up, just as my energy or aliveness is in the moment. And to connect that to what you were saying, you and Marvin were talking about at the beginning, it feels like sometimes the sharing of ideas is thinking at the edge. It's Jenlin's second practice in being with the implicit at the concept level. So
If it's
it's like the
okay,
zigzag. It's
yeah.
the zigzag and it's the practice. Yeah.
If it's okay, I remember a little bit about the last week, and I think it reflects the difference that you have, Lynn, described the difference between personal experience, starting with personal experience, and talking about ideas. And it has to do with me and my personal life experience and where I am in that. And my wish in this group to get to know others better than I know them, that I feel I know people. I know people primarily through their ideas rather than their personal lives. It's not exactly that I want to know everything about you and your marital situation and your interests and your hobbies, but something is missing for me and I think I said to Annette, I would so like to know you a little better. I'd like to know what your personal perspectives are about whatever we were talking about, rather than my thinking of Annette as a source of knowledge, an encyclopedia about focusing and issues like belonging. And I know that made you uncomfortable. I'm sorry. It, it made me uncomfortable too, but it's where I was at
made
that.
you uncomfortable to say that, or it made you uncomfortable?
Say again.
What made you uncomfortable, Marvin? It made
I
you
don't want to be in that critical
be
role.
to be critical. Yeah.
I don't, it wasn't my
Yes,
aim to be critical of Annette
yes,
or anybody else.
yeah. And Annette, you really felt criticized, not appreciated, not welcomed,
Hmm.
not all those things on that page.
Yeah.
Perhaps, when oh, Annette, you were going to say something?
Go ahead.
No, I was thinking, well, first of all, I think that we're talking about also, I think in the group, we're trying to do something that we can accept as much as we can. And we can accept, the goal is to be accepting of what people bring on the table, whether it is personal or more I don't know the word intellectual, but I'm thinking, maybe, Marvin has not certain needs, and Annette has certain needs. And then, the need to explore ideas, or the need to be more, to know, to, know each other. So we get to know each other better. So coming from different places, and how do we do that? You know what I mean? I'm someone that I feel that, even though that I think we feel like in order to survive, we have to process a little bit, but it cannot be only about processing. I enjoy Lynn's, coming with ideas about discussing ideas or papers, and because sometimes we get stuck with some processing in the group. It doesn't go anywhere, or it may go somewhere, but it's a little, I don't know, just frustration. But I don't know. But I'm glad we're talking about it.
Hmm. I'm wondering if people would agree that Annette's aliveness often comes from the feeling of the connection of the you and me-ness. And that can happen around ideas or around an incident in somebody's life. But we're all after that, but it's also a risk to have that immediacy of connection. A risk for you, Annette, to say that you felt othered, right? Othered as a, how would you put it?
I don't know. The language that came when I was focusing on it a bit was like, don't be the smarty pants or something like, it's just like,
Don't be what?
don't be the smarty pants or
Don't
something.
be the smarty pants.
And I had an uncle who told me at one point, oh, you think you're so smart or something like that. So it's like,
Mm.
it's, there's stuff there. And my,
Please explain about smarty pants.
Thank you for assuming.
yeah.
I can imagine what that.
Is it what? Being too smart? Like being too clever? Being annoying because you're too clever? I don't
Right.
know.
You think you're so clever. You take enjoyment in that, right? And it's like bragging a little or close to that.
Well,
Does that feel?
the person thinks that, who says you're a smarty pants,
Mhm.
thinks you're bragging. But the literal idiom is that the person, how would you say it? You have smart pants.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Can I jump in here because I think that there's two things that are arising and a bit related to, and Jim, thanks for sending me the paper because I could not open it. But one of the things that Lynn, you talk about in this paper, and I think it's true also here in this group. So you talk about the diversity and this sort of like come as you are kind of thing. It's my language.
Right.
And the other thing is it's this piece around cultivating an attitude of openness and welcoming and curiosity, which are the underpinnings of focusing and being able to be in that space and sort of like just get curious about the other person, which I think Marvin, it's what you're bringing, and I don't know if it's landing like you want more than people want to give, but the other part, it's that part of embodied reflection for the other person as well in that moment, and I think that that's the piece that we really haven't let me rephrase that I really haven't mastered in this group. That piece or that balance of both bringing, and you use the word trigger, and I know the word trigger has danced around here before. When we were talking about yoga and getting triggered and you didn't like that, and I remember that. I know I've been triggered. And the word that I used today with you is that something in me felt activated. And I think that what then happens is that when something gets activated, rather than feeling an aliveness, I then feel like, what's wrong with me? Rather than getting curious around that aliveness that is arising for me, which is that piece of embodying for myself that sense of investigation and curiosity in that moment. And I think that for me, that's the lag. I can't do it in that moment. And I don't know, Annette, if what your experience was, you couldn't do it in that moment last time, but then when you had time to reflect and come back, then you were able to engage the conversation and notice that some of what was arising was the desire to belong and what it feels like when I don't belong. And so I think that to your point, Jim, of the paper speaks about what we are doing here. I think it's in an intellectual and framework kind of way, it does. But I don't think that we collectively have been able to transfer that from the page to the actual experience. That I think it's the biggest challenge here. At least it is for me.
I agree with you on that.
Intellectually, we know because no one here, everyone here, it's intellectually capable, right? Because everyone here is holding some kind of degree. But yeah, it is so elusive to be able to do that in the moment when you are in it. I know for me, it's the hardest thing. And that's what I long for here in this group, to really be able to break free from that in the moment. Not afterwards, not after, the week after, 2 weeks later. I'm like, oh my God, and then say something and it really activated me. What was that? In the moment, I want to be able to bring that sense of curiosity, investigation, that pause, that revolutionary listening piece that we have never gone back to. It's just like, so just wanted to say that. And I don't know, Annette, and this is to you, I don't think that you come across as a smarty pants for me. I think that you hold knowledge that you want to share.
Oh,
And I think that that's appropriate, and we all do that in some way or another. So just wanted to bring that into the conversation. And Masumi, thanks for asking and posing that idiom because, like me, a lot of times I'm like, how did this become a thing? Smarty pants. Pants are not smart. But hey, so thank you.
Listening is the whole thing, right? And it's the revolution. It's sort of ironic to me that Marvin, you have this deep desire to know people better, but that in that Annette felt unknown to you because you weren't knowing her in her way. You wanted to know her in your way or something.
yes. I fully agree with what everybody has said, Roberto and Isabel. I'm curious. I think it's an attribute of mine that I like. That is, I'm curious about other people, and I want to know other people in the moment better. And I was in another context. I was talking about it with a friend the other day, in that in the sense of, why do I like entertaining? Why do I like hosting? Why do I like people coming to my house? Because I'm curious about them. I'm curious about our interactions. And it's something that I didn't have positively as a kid. And it may be that I'm still trying to fill myself up with that. But but doing it in a positive way uh, for everybody's enjoyment.
Yeah.
Would you also like us to know you better? Is that a piece of this?
Sure. Uh, Very much so.
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of resonate with Marvin about his need to wanting to connect on a personal level, I think, and then has a lot of deep meaning. As I'm getting older, and I want that, I need that. You know, I want to be able to, yeah, to connect to people. I'm having a struggle with, in some ways, you know, I've been in the United States about 40 years, I think it is, and you know, I'm fully you know, integrated, acculturated into, and I'm fine with it. But lately, I think because of COVID and we got isolated in our lives, my partner and I, that I'm missing the Latin kind of culture, as you know, people kind of more enmeshed. This need to be together, or to spend time together, you know. Um, and it seems like that's the goal, to be with each other. Just like I'm kind of missing that, and you know that the boundaries are more loose, and less measured. I guess sometimes I think that at least if you compare, you know, I would say the European um, culture in the United States, you know, in comparison to Latin cultures, there, you know, is a little more, a little more reserved, pulled back, and then so I'm missing that, you know, and I kind of relate to Marvin, the need to connect, and you know, and that gives great meaning to my life. Or, um, but I mean, I understand Annette, you know, where she's coming from, and I guess Lynn is saying this is where I guess you know, the way she's wants to connect with us is very much alive for her, and then able to I guess we want to make room for everybody, understand each other, and but we're also talking about how does it feel when by being oneself, maybe the other person is being um, it's not fitted in, and then how do we express that? No, how do we say, which we have been doing in our group, you know, coming from the I feel this, I feel that, which is very difficult, I think, and you know, challenging. Um, and but we've been trying to do that. I think it's been in the it's a current in, you know, in our group. You know, how do we say so, you know, like how would Annette say what she's feeling with Marvin, you know, and without pushing the other person away. You know, I think it's the challenge. So anyway, just that.
It
Yeah.
reminds me of an improv game where you play yes and.
Yes.
You don't say to someone, you can say yes, and I would like to do this, or yes, and we add rather than going, you know, I don't want this and I don't want that, or some version of that.
Mhm.
To follow this up with where I am, I think I feel a little stuck, Annette, on, and it's a little bit maybe what you were saying, Roberto. I can remember feeling last time we talked a lot about the picnic the time before, and how, I don't know, I felt kind of proper and straight-laced, or what is the word for not like I'm on a picnic, which is, I think, you know, I didn't want that feeling that I had of uptight was the feeling, and so irritated. But, and you know, I think a couple of years ago, I would not have said irritated. I would have been like a good girl, holding back a sort of negative emotion. But that made Annette feel, you know, that I was irritated with her. Right? So, you know, it's tricky. I mean, you say things and you hurt people's feelings. And I guess that's part of it. I mean, we did have I thought it was a really good talk.
Well, maybe that's the idea of cleaning up after yourself. Say things and you say it the way you are as you come through the door, right? And then you say, oh, I said that, or this was going on. I have that almost every time after the meeting. Oh, this was going on. I didn't know that then. And probably there are so many things going on that I wasn't, you know, that was just one of them that I recognized.
You know what I'm picking up in the way you talk, Lynn, is it's very forgiving of what happened, the way you felt, the way somebody else felt. And I remember Lynn once said to me, but when I was bemoaning, you know, having said something that hurt somebody, or I was afraid, and she said, oh, well, that was then. This is a whole new moment. I think that's a wonderful way to look at it, that there is, you know, there's the present is always coming afresh with fresh possibilities.
But so important that, like Annette just did, we can let go of the hurts when they occur, because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
That somebody says something that they had no meaning to hurt anyone, but because we're all so different things hurt us, and it takes courage to speak up. And that was so powerful in that, for you to be able to let us know. And I think that that's such a key thing, such a key element.
Nancy, can I just say, I think that it transcends, for me, letting go of the hurt. Because if I let go without understanding what was happening, that it felt like hurt, then I feel like I'm just gonna get hurt again. That it's important for me to understand what was it about that interaction that agitated me, irritated me, rubbed me the wrong way. Because if I don't understand that, the root of it, the root cause of it, for me, then I think that the next time, that's the happening again, right? That's what the Buddhist calls samsara. I'm caught in the constant suffering, right? And so for me, and to the people, Lynn, again, you talk about emphatic listening to someone else with empathy. But for me, it's just as important to listen to someone else with empathy and listen to myself with empathy. So it's not one or the other. Right. It's what you're saying is the and of this interaction. Like what happened that and to have empathy for myself. That's something arose that was edgy, that was irritable, right? But what was it? And so to the point of belonging, for me, a piece here in this group that has time and time again scrape me, hurt me, be an ouch, it's how easy the conversation turns towards intellectual capacity. And I don't, and Lynn and I have gotten into this conversation a number of times. And then that's the divisiveness of it. And I would love for you to share now what you told me this morning. Because that makes sense when you spoke it. I don't know if you remember.
Can you give me a little
So
more?
when I say that here in this group, that's almost like there's always a turn that is taken towards intellectual capacity, intellectual experience, this kind of like I went to this institute and I learned from this person. Name dropping is what we call it in regular day-to-day conversation. To me, I find that divisive, right? Because then there's the ones that have and the one that haven't. And Marvin, you often say, you use the phrase, well, you people, you don't say it like that, are focuser, you are experience focuser, right? But what you say today to me, Lynn, was something around how we come to the conversation from different places.
Yeah.
We come to the conversation from our intellectual knowing, which may have been set in our way because in academia, that's what's expected, that you don't say pink without saying who say pink before you. Name me that person. And that there's some of us that are more living in the emotion of what's going on for us in the moment rather than the intellectual framework. And if you can say more about that, I think that that will be really helpful in this moment, at least for me.
Well, I think one of the things that I said that I haven't said in the group is that we come at connecting from almost an inherent place, you know, I would say that from the time I was a little girl, I led with conception. I studied the Bible. I would hide in my father's old jalopy and read the Bible and see what message it had for me. And those ideas were very, very important to me. The whole sphere of emotion and emotional expression was completely absent in my family. And I think one of the things that I got so much from Gene Genlin is that he accepted me as this person that leads with ideas and conceptions and could meet me there, and that he and I both, and I think he's that way too, prized and wanted the emotional immediacy and the experience in the body. And Isabel, I love how you come at things with this passion. And, you know, a part of me wishes that I could do that, but it's not in my nature. I have to get to the passion from thinking about something, or I can be touched, but the actual passion won't come in this direct way, the way it does for you. And you lead with that passion, Isabel. And it doesn't have anything to do with, I don't think, with education or with intellectuality. I think it has to do with just our makeup. I think I would, if I didn't have any education at all, I would still come from that place. Is that what did I say anything like that?
Yeah, but the other piece that you added it was that piece about, and I don't know how you said it, I'm trying to recall it, is that you were raised as a wasp.
Yes,
In that way, the
yes,
expectation is that you don't emote, that
exactly.
you are,
Probably need to
know?
explain WASP from
oh
assuming.
yeah,
Oh, yes. B.
okay, yeah, yeah. Somebody else may want to explain that, because I am the least person capable of explaining that here.
Go ahead, Annette. What is?
I forget them all. White,
Anglo-Saxon,
That's princess.
Protestant.
Protestant.
I thought it was princess.
That's Jewish.
Right?
It's-
I knew that word. Thank you.
But you see what I'm saying about that, right? So you talked about this sort of almost constrained and you know measure way of being,
Mm,
right? Where Roberto, I don't know if this is the same for you. I come from a culture that we are out there with our emotion every time, all the time. It's like at 100 all the time. Latin people are constantly, and I'm not gonna say everyone, but really emote. And when we talk with our hands, and we are almost performing all the time in the sense of the energy around it. And so that's, to me, brings back the conversation to in this group. It's the quality of the conversations here, and that sometimes I feel like by the time we come back the next week, the next time, whenever that is, the moment has eluded us, right? Like what happened with Annette last time. My heart desire is that we could have stopped there and that you could have said something. And I know that that's not possible, but that's what I'm missing. That sort of like instant, not instant gratification, but instant exploration.
we have a moment here now. Let's see what we do with it. The moment of saying, well, part of this is that I'm a wasp, and we have different cultures. Misumi's culture is more like mine, I think. We grow up in an environment that we take for granted. We're shaped by, and then we have to see what we want to do with it, how we can expand it.
My mother was English and very correct and proper, without many feelings being expressed either. But I have come to needing to express more emotion. So it does come up more readily now if I need to be in a very safe place, like with my husband. Bob and I can get to the feelings better, or he might point out to me how something is pushing a button on me. And I have to be a little bit careful to not resent that sometimes. But it's helpful when I can, and when I know it, and when I can speak the emotion. Just makes all the difference in the world. But it has to be safe. It has to be safe within me, not just within the people that I'm with. But I guess I have to be feeling safe within myself with the emotions. Lynn, it doesn't sound like it was safe for you to have the feelings, and it wasn't for me either as a child, certainly. And it's taken, I'm 79, it's taken a hell of a lot of therapy. and trying it out. But it makes a huge difference. But to be able to do it instantly is not easy. But it is wonderfully important if we could do it.
One very practical thing that I wanted to suggest on this is that we share telephone numbers. Receiving a email from somebody else, one-sided email, it can be very troublesome and lead to some misunderstandings when you're trying to resolve something that was problematic. But a telephone call is two-sided, and you can immediately, if you say something you can immediately correct it. That isn't the case in the ways of communicating that we currently have. We have emails.
Well, Marvin, I just want to ask if we could come back to that in a minute. I was really touched by what Nancy was saying, and at the same time, I didn't want to miss this excitement that I have about what Isabel is saying, that, you know, we don't have to do, what I heard Isabel say is, we don't have to do anything more than we're already doing. However, if we made a commitment to have, you know, anytime any two people want to really kind of pause it and go a little deeper, that was really exciting to me. And, you know, Lynn and Nancy really brought in the nuances of the other sides. And each of us is a different culture, not to minimize the big differences and, you know, ethnicities and different continents that we come from originally. But I'm just so excited about what you were saying, Isabel. I don't know where you're with it now.
What excited you, Mary, was this idea that we could prize these interactions enough to sort of give people space to go deeper in the moment with it.
Yes, I mean, we could encourage that, and we could all come with that intention. You know, I always have some, you know, some idea, and I'm racing to get home to do this. And I apologize for being late and off camera. I hadn't eaten. Like tonight, I was getting here, and I was like, well, I just want to just completely let go of like any idea or label or thought I've had about anybody in this group, because I love focusing with them one-on-one, but I don't necessarily think that I know. Like we have to kind of find each other in the moment if we can cultivate that. Or maybe find, Judith Vior says, you know, friends we're people who we find spots where we match. You know, we don't, like, sometimes like the smallest thing can be so meaningful.
Like what?
Like what? Oh goodness. Like the energy that I heard. Like if I couldn't even understand Isabel's language, I just love the energy. It just like, oh, I just love the energy that she was speaking with.
I wonder if we might pause and give ourselves, 30 seconds to a minute just to see what's happening in us. If something is there, either a glimmer, like Mary just shared, or an activation.
Something that's glimmered in me since Nancy said it. So I want to say it because it's sounds like an idea, but it's, one of these so important ideas, and that's safety within myself. Ultimately, I think that's, where it's got to be, because outside oneself, all kinds of things can happen. And that touched me. When I can get there inside myself, there's such a feeling of peace and openness. I feel it in here.
Susan, safety for oneself, like, can you
Well, I was
explain a little
thinking
more?
interpersonally, that's what I was speaking about, the way we were talking about taking risks and making mistakes, or, getting into brouhahas and staying with them, and how hard it is to stay with oneself, stay with the other.
I guess for me, I raised a suggestion about sharing numbers because I so would have loved it if Annette, you had called me up and said, I think we have a misunderstanding, and we could have had a deeper conversation right in the moment or the next day than waiting 2 weeks to bring it back to the group. And that's part of what I mean by getting to know one another at a deeper level, where we can feel open enough and comfortable enough with one to be able to do that. That's what I'm hoping we can get to from this group.
Yeah, I like the idea, Marvin, of sharing the phone, and I wanted to get there too. I think it's really important that we get to that point. And then the safety, I think that seems to be that we're saying, yes, in order to belong, we need to feel safe. And then
Yeah.
how do we create the safety?
You
Somebody
know,
was saying something?
I just had this thought that safety is created through the kind of things that we're grappling with, the hurts and the repairing and I mean, coming back to ourselves and each other. I mean, it's such a loving thing, I think, that wanting to understand.
Yeah,
One, sorry, somebody was
no,
saying,
go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
that's what I wanted to say, that it creates safety.
Okay.
But-
And sometimes I think that safety inside of myself is a big piece of that, because there have been times when I was afraid to experience my own feelings. It didn't feel safe to feel what I felt, so I suppressed them for many years. So kind of I have to get comfortable with myself and my own feelings before I can even consider saying them to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's taken a lot of work also, because sometimes it was life-threatening to feel those feelings.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Part of me wants to ask you, Nancy, like, how is it in this moment for you? How are you in this moment? So how are you in this moment?
How am I in this moment?
Mhm.
I'm good. I am good. I have become comfortable with all kinds of feelings inside. And as Susan was saying, it feels good to be at that point. If I look a little deeper, it's not always so easy though. So it's not always true. There are times when I still have difficulty looking at the feelings sometimes too. Yeah. And you have to just kind of be with self sometimes.
Mm,
And
mm.
what that has been said is stirring whatever within myself. Yeah. I was referring to something many, many years ago, not today.
Mhm. Oh. Yeah, I really also, oh, sorry.
Sorry,
You want to
if,
go ahead?
no, I didn't want to interrupt you. I wasn't sure if you were finished. Please go, carry on.
Yeah, no, I wanted to say that I also really, you know, love and try to hold what Isabel is saying about, in the moment, and um how how, yeah, how that's really the essence, I think, what you're trying to do here, or to try to practice that, and be in the moment. And it's kind of funny, Marvin, like you're saying, like, I wish we had each other's phone number and I would just call you up, right after the meeting. I'll call you up and ask, like, what did you mean, or something, or did I hurt you? Do you feel hurt? And that's like almost in the moment, but it's getting there. But and that's and it's also like a little bit earlier than that would be right here in the meeting, and so yeah. And I do know, I totally do know how difficult it is to be in the here and the now, and it's very I feel it's very, yeah, it's a very how do you say it? I only do you know Dutch? It's a very kwetsbaar. It's a kwetsbaar moment, like a kwetsbaar. It's like you can easily get hurt. You're all open, and especially in the moment because you don't even guard yourself, or um you know yeah, so yeah.
Mm.
Thank you.
Mm.
I wonder if I could just go back to something Nancy said that I felt very like both touched by and also relieved to hear another human being say this, that like when we're talking about safety, I'm curious about other people's experiences of feeling safe in themselves and their interactions with themselves, and also if others don't feel that way. I think that that's certainly for me a real is sort of a fundamental, almost like disability, that I don't tend to feel safe. And I think largely because the emotional intensity and overwhelm does not feel containable by me. It feels like it will take my life or take my breath. It feels so intolerable. And yeah, without meaning to overshare, it in fact, it's a lot of why I sometimes can't be alone with myself in a kind of just as I am. I'm always in that klepfar of the Dutch, mispronounced by me, but like it's so I need another to sort of be supervising or to help like co-regulate, because the way that I experience my own feelings of loss or disappointment or whatnot don't feel that they're possible to be contained by me anyway. And that's it feels like a very dangerous way to live, a real handicap in a certain way. And also I think it complicates the dynamic then with others, because there's a real need for another to even make it safe for me to inhabit myself. I think I can be usually very generous with others in terms of normalizing or holding whatever they're going through. But it's always with a living that I don't know if I'm safe from one moment to the next, or if I'm going to experience kind of, be it a collapse or an overwhelm or such intensity that it's intolerable, and I'll feel it physically as well as like a pain or such a like a knotted stomach or a broken heart or something that it feels impossible.
I get it. It can improve though. It can get better, but I get it totally.
I get it too, Rachel. And it's just very, very excruciating sometimes.
Mm.
A lot. And I think you, Rachel, asked, like, were you asking for people who know how to do it to share how they do it?
Yeah, or people who have an experience where they feel safe, either because that's just how they were made or because it's taken years and they've overcome. So yeah, I would love if this is a topic that we're
Yeah.
okay to talk about. I really appreciate it.
I can share. And my story is that when I learned focusing, I had a breakup before that. And in 2015, I had like a self-love project. I really worked on loving myself and listening to myself. And I forget everything I did with that. I should go back and read my diaries. But part of it was like focusing on self-compassion and just being in touch with that feeling and being able to access it more often. And oh yeah, and part of that project was when the critic would show up, I would say, oh, thank you, critic. And self-compassion, what do you have to say? So I would like call on self as a practice. I did it over and over again. And I had this experience where I was with a friend, but it became pretty clear while I was at their house for dinner that they wanted it to be a date, and I was getting uncomfortable. And I remember feeling scared, and I went to the washroom and I was having this internal conversation. I had the scared and I had the me that was going to get me out. And I just had them so clearly, both. I think maybe I've shared this before. Did I share this here before? Anyways, I had both of those together. And that was really cool because once I had that, I know when I'm scared, if I'm paying attention, I can have me there for me. But in the last few weeks, I had a client who I unfortunately had to fire. And I was feeling sad today. And what came was like, oh, you weren't checking in with me. It wasn't, so I can, it's not like it's not seamless.
Mm-hmm.
Self is not always there to go, hey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyways, those are some stories.
I was just gonna say, Rachel, for me, I don't think there's a safe as a blanket, but that there's places where there's a level of safety that it's more prominent than other times. And for me, you know, one of the things for me, it's really bringing all of who I am to all of my experiences. And I know I take a risk when I do that. Because it can both bring people closer to me and push people away. And so coming to terms with accepting, self-acceptance, that I'm not willing to leave any parts of who I am at the door. If there are parts of me that are not welcome somewhere, then I don't need to be there. And I am clear in that. Like for me, that's a clarity that I have integrated to how I interact. And I don't know, as a person of color, I don't know that I feel safe. I feel safer in certain spaces, you know, but I can't say that I'm always feeling safe. You know, I'll give you an example. This is for Marvin. Yesterday, I went to a high-end store here. And as soon as I went in, and I didn't go to buy anything, for disclosure, I needed to kill time between my next thing and whatever. And I noticed that I was being very conscious of not doing anything that would seem like I was going to steal something. And then I saw another person totally free, trying on like, you know, bracelets and earrings and necklace and just like totally in it. And I noticed, and I don't know, and if this is the part that you're saying, there was that part of me that was kind of like, well, don't even go close to that area, right? So I was conscious of staying in places where I was visible, items were big, no one would think that I would put, like, I don't know, a piece of furniture in my bag. And so for me, as a person of color, I have to live with both of those places at all times. And what has worked for me is noticing when that's emerging, right? And naming it for myself, which is what you were talking about, and then the recognition of tending to the self and noticing, oh, okay, this is what's happening. But also not discarding it, not being like, okay, you're just making this up, because I have experienced it, you know? So it's holding both of those ends. Yeah, you're overreacting. And yeah, that is true. That could happen. Yeah. So balancing rather than the reactive piece, the trigger piece, are they looking at me? But really noticing how that is showing up for me. It's what provides a sense of grounding. And I don't know if the word is safety, because I don't know that I can always feel safe in every. So that's my experience.
As far as becoming safe with those internal feelings, it took a long time, touching them just a teeny little bit at a time, letting them come up and recognizing them, writing them down, talking to somebody in a therapy situation, so that I became gradually to feel safer and less terrified of becoming overwhelmed and flooded with it, but just little bit by little bit over time. And it's hard work, but it helps.
You know,
I'm thinking, how would I feel if I were in your situation where I was worried perhaps all the time that I walked into a department store or a Best Buy that people were going to be observing me and thinking that I was ready to steal something. It must be awful for you to feel that way.
Sounds hellish.
I don't, I mean, Retro, I appreciate your such a articulate way to describe your experience, you know. And then I mean, I don't always feel safe. I mean, like, you know, as a gay man, um, in the workplace, at the high school that I work at, I don't, and not necessarily for being gay, but I'm openly gay, but I don't, and I think about it all the time. At times I really don't care. I mean, because that's the way it is. But in other places, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I guess I tend to be in places where I know I will feel safe. You know what I mean? That it's not too, I don't know what the word would be. I mean, if I'm surrounded by a lot of male energy, it makes me, I feel a little bit on the edge, like, if it is too, because that tends to come with, sometimes with homophobia, but, that if there is a lot of male energy, like, for example, we had a tragedy. There was a shooting in Florida, and I went to the high school where 17 people were killed, and so the school opened in the following year for the students, but there was a lot of army around, the policemen and so I guess they chose very strong, tall, fit men to be around the school. I mean, there were tons, and I just was somewhat uncomfortable with that. It was like, well, but that's what I'm kind of describing. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some places in the United States I would be afraid to travel to. The South, or countrysides, and and places where I might stood out. So I avoid that. I don't. So with my partner, he's very sensitive about going to eat. Oh, the restaurant has too many straight people. I don't want to go. And so he's always kind of making sure that he's comfortable. And so I don't know. It just kind of uh, you know kind of part of my life. I just kind of second nature, I guess. But I mean, definitely, I feel like as a Latino Bolivian in the U.S., I feel safer here than I would in Bolivia. So, I mean, this country offers me a lot of freedom, and so anyway.
I find it interesting that, say, Isabel or Roberto have reasons not to feel safe. I cannot feel safe for no reason whatsoever. I generally don't feel safe out in the world. I feel like the world's an alien place. I might go into a store. It's not like they might think I'm stealing something. They just might pick on me just because they feel like it. So I'm always hesitant to go places and to do things because it's a lack of feeling of belonging generally. I don't belong on this planet. So there aren't a lot of safe places on this planet for me. Even though I have a card that says I'm an American, they know I'm really from another planet.
Can I just say, Roberto, thank you, and Jim, thank you, and I think Lynn, this is the part about the biodiversity, right? We all have a something, regardless of what it is, of how it's seen, that, as you were saying, Annette, at any given point, we may not feel like we belong, right? And I have to say, I know for some of us, it's my lived experience is every day, every moment around being a person of color. I can't change my skin color. As a gay woman, I can absolutely pass, right? My wife, not so much. My wife will be picked out from, whatever, constantly being chased out of the bathroom. You don't belong. Get out. This is the girls' bathroom, whatever. And so I have a picture of my wife and I am in my office, and I work in a school setting, and just today, and I have that picture forever. There was a fleeting moment when I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have this picture here. What about if a parent comes? I have worked in that place for 14 years, and I am totally out. I'm not halfway out, but that the thought occurred. And that's what I'm saying, Rachel, about safety. I don't think that there's ever a safe place or way of being. I think that I experience moments of belonging and connectedness, and that I make an effort to expand and extend those moments beyond that little bit. Like with this group, which every week I talk about this, right? And so, yeah, but I really appreciate, Roberto, what you share, and that sense of your partner also sort of like feeling, I don't know. And what you share, too much testosterone here. And that's not my experience, right? That's no place where I go and I'm saying, oh, too much lipstick, let me get out. That's not an experience for me, right? And so thank you. And I can see that in this moment, this is something that feels for me, that touches something in me around feeling connected with people. Annette, your sharing of the breakup, Rachel, your sharing of how do other people feel safe? Jim, your sharing of, I never feel safe, and it's not because I'm Black. It's just because I am, So really noticing that. And I just want to say, Nancy, when you said you're 79, I was sitting here saying, oh my God, I want to grow up to be like you. I want to be 79 and look like that.
The computer is kind.
You have the retouch on your Zoom. You were like, what is that? That thing where you click and it makes you off and makes you look great. I don't think so. I don't think it's computer generated. I think it looks really great. You look really great.
Thank you.
I am wondering how BJ is feeling, because you haven't said anything, and I've just been wondering. Could you tell us how you're doing?
I continue to have the flu I caught from my grandson on December the 28th. And I really barely have the energy to, take a bath.
Wow.
So that's part of it.
Mhm.
That I just I'm conserving my self.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I was just thinking that you all are very beautiful. I started a little project capturing pictures. In the first year, it was Jane. What's her name at first? My God, there were moments that she was exquisitely beautiful. And she's what, 82, she said, or 83. And I just had this feeling she had no idea how beautiful she was. And so, I just started capturing pictures. And I love it now. She uses that picture for her screenshot and everything. So well, I like to do that. And I probably won't get around to it, but my thought was about this class, how wonderful it would be to have as a project to capture pictures of all of you as you're just being who you are. And to put it together and have this music playing. And the song would be like, how could anyone fail to notice that you're anything less than beautiful? How could anyone fail to notice you are something, 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 on and on and on. That something, something, something. How closely you're connected to my something. Anyway, I probably won't do that.
Breaking song.
But I've captured some photographs of some of you where that you are just so beautiful. It is just that, you know, the capacity of the human spirit to express itself.
I wish you would send us those pictures, BJ. It'd be fabulous.
Who sings that song?
Well, I knew that song. I don't know how BJ did. I had a CD many, many years ago about songs for your inner child. Have you seen that in it? And that song was on that CD.
Hmm.
How do you know it, BJ?
I was about to play it for y'all. I know it from having been a religious professional for 40 years and trying to help people to understand. Yeah.
What's
Oh,
the name of it?
I'll find it. Y'all go ahead, I'll find it. Because I was listening to it just the other day when I was imagining my project.
And can I just say, not to be your doctor, but I know here in the city, in New York City, the flu is up, and so it's COVID and also RSV. Just my son, my daughter, my son-in-law, my 2-year-old granddaughter, they were all with the flu. I somehow escaped there and only had like a 2 or 3 day thing, but it is rampant here. And so people are back to kind of like wearing a mask on public spaces because there's so much upper respiratory stuff going on.
As you're saying that, this cough is coming upon me, Isabel, which I didn't have before.
Yeah, they're doing the mask thing again.
well, I've been so conscious in this group, the last group of BJ being here and Jim being here. And I even thought that it had something to do with last time's difficulty, you know, uptightness. And, you know, so I'm sticking my foot out or jumping or something because I'm not sure what everybody is feeling. I don't know if this is not where the group is, but it is where I am. And I'm wondering what's underneath, you know, like how comfortable you guys are or uncomfortable. And I just don't want to get in a situation where we can't say something, can't ask something, you know, and it has its life or your relationship or your thoughts have a life of their own. I think that's sort of killing to the spirit. So, I mean, because, yeah, that's
Well,
all.
it occurred to me, for
Susan,
example,
I'm sorry, Jim. Let me ask this: who you guys are you referring to? Are you referring to Jim and BJ? Are you referring to all of us? I
No,
sort of missed
I'm
that.
sorry. Jim, I'm talking to Jim and BJ, talking to everybody, but I'm referring to Jim and BJ.
I just wanted to say that when Marvin was talking about giving out phone numbers, I was saying BJ would never let me call her up. So, you know, I'm excluded from this phone number swap. But I decided not to say something. I could have said something, but I thought that would be starting something. So I decided to not mention it.
Got it. So it's like you have a different sort of two levels of experience, one that what you can say and the other the first feelings and reactions?
Well, I don't think I'm unique in that. I don't think everybody says everything that occurs to them. all the
Oh,
time.
no. It's hardly. I just
I
feel,
think that, Susan, that you just want to acknowledge that last time was the first time since the conflict that we
maybe
had
the second,
Jim, and you just wanted to acknowledge that that's a big, that there's a something there.
yeah,
Wanted it to be spoken.
right. I don't want to put anybody on the spot or feel you have to say something to each other. Or it's to acknowledge. I'm aware of it, and I'm sure, I bet you are. I know you are.
I mean, I have to live in a world, not one that I feel safe in normally, but where people are going to dislike me or hate me or discriminate against me or have feelings towards me which will not allow me to connect with them or express myself to them in a way that is comfortable for me. And if I can't live in that world, then it's something I need to work on.
Okay,
I'm glad you're here, Jim.
yeah.
Jim, I love it when you say that's something you have to work on. But what do you mean when you say that?
Well, for example, when you address me like that, like you have the right to address me. I don't feel like I have the right to address you. You never hear me say, BJ, what do you think of such and such? I feel like I'm not allowed to do that. But you feel like you can say, Jim, what do you think of such and such?
So there's just some part of you that feels like a kind of anticipatory a judgment or anticipatory you're anticipating that who doesn't allow you, I guess that's a good way to say it.
It's not anticipating anything in particular. It's like if you read the paper, or I mean, you even have to read the paper. It's based on the idea that if you're always curious and you're always open, then if there's some problem, you can work it out, you can discuss it. But I think we have problems that you don't want to discuss with me, or certainly don't want to discuss in private. I don't know if you even want to discuss them in public.
Jim, just to go back for a minute, I think that experience of claiming, you're almost there, but not quite there when you say, well, BJ can address you, but you can't address BJ. But that BJ asking you who's not allowing you, that there's something about that claiming belonging.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about claiming belonging. I mean, if you claim belonging, I mean, Annette could have claimed belonging last time, but she didn't because she didn't feel like she belonged.
No, but
If I claim belonging and I don't feel like I belong, then I'm just lying.
I felt that Annette claimed the belonging by bringing up how she felt.
This time, yes.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think I had it during the meeting. I think I got it after and reflecting and sitting with it and going, what was happening there?
Well, I feel not belonging in general more than I feel belonging. And I feel belonging more today than I did, say, last meeting. Last meeting, I was just, I might have left in the middle, but didn't. Because I didn't feel like I had the right to leave in the middle last time. Today, I feel like I have the right to leave in the middle, but I don't have to.
That's wonderful. I think I think that's great that you
It's
feel
a matter
more
of opinion.
this time than last time.
Can I ask BJ what that would feel like for you if Jim did address you directly in this group? If he said, BJ, what do you think of that? How that might land?
I don't know. At this moment, I don't think I would have any issue about it. You know, I watched again my outrage the other day. And I've heard you say, Jim, that you think that I'm not bothered by being with people that despise me. That you are. I'm not. I don't mind. You might not have said that exactly, but and then when Lynn said, it's like the Israeli Jordanian Palestinian conflict. There's a them, and I want to stay away from them. And I so reacted against that because I don't have a problem being in a it's true. I don't have a problem being in a situation with a group of people, many of whom are at odds with each other, because I have a real confidence in the group somehow. So I think I would be all right. I think I would welcome being asked a question by you, Jim. And it's not that I don't want to be with Jim. I don't want to be in a situation where I feel like the code of confidentiality that comes from care is seen so differently than the way I see it, that I'm not going to be there. And Jim, I'm not trying to be, whatever. About a month or 6 weeks, maybe 4 weeks after I had my big blow up, I happened to be paired with somebody who said, "Oh, Jim sent me that." And I know that you think that that's a breaking of confidentiality, but he doesn't see it that way. He sees it as sharing. And there it is, it was then and it's now. There's something, you see it as sharing. And maybe I could understand that better. I would love to understand that better.
I'd be happy to meet with you and discuss it, and maybe you would understand it better. I feel like you're characterizing me in a certain way, which doesn't really fit. And I don't want to make this about that at the moment.
Am I? If it doesn't fit, I don't understand how it doesn't fit. And
I just want to reflect here and jump in, because you could go down that rabbit hole, right? But I think, BJ, that you're asking Jim to accept you as a belonging group member that that doesn't want to meet with him privately because of the differences of what those basic differences that you feel and that you've talked about feeling scared. And Jim, I think you are feeling like you have to possess your right to belong and your right to address BJ. And it's very hard for you to accept BJ not wanting to be alone with you, because it feels like then you're contributing to this image of being somebody that people would be scared of, and that's not livable.
Well, it's more like I'm beyond the pale in some way.
You're beyond the pale for BJ
Exactly.
as individually, but that hits you so hard in the in the chest. You're not beyond the pale to anybody else.
Yeah, but
You're not
I just have to be beyond the pale for
BJ,
one person is usually enough.
for BJ to meet individually with, but not to meet in the group with. You're different for her. I hope I'm portraying you correctly, BJ. You're different for her as a group member than an individual focusing partner or conversationalist. It's a different feeling for her. But it's like you need her to not be scared to be alone with you in order for you to feel like you are belonging and appreciated and
Mhm.
is what I'm saying helping, or is it making it worse?
I don't know. That's not helping me at the moment.
Well, could,
Could I-
Susan, go ahead.
I was just gonna say something about could we or you and us live without finding a solution? You know, it's like this is some middle place right now. Rather than going to the place you want to go to, Jim, which is, you know, meeting with BJ individual by yourselves. That's could we all stay here and this be okay? And I guess I'm saying what Lynn is saying. Could you accept? Could you make yourself a safe place for you, not dependent on BJ?
I try,
Yeah.
but I don't often succeed.
Well,
I was doing pretty well today.
You were.
It's so
So-
what you're, oh, I'm sorry, BJ, go ahead.
I was just vocalizing, no words.
Okay. I like Lynn, what you said feels very important for me to hear. I feel in a way, I think just like what I imagine Jim thinks. If one person sees me in a particular way that for some reason hits me, you know, as you know, I can go to the ends of the earth to try to convince that person that no, I'm not too needy. I'm lovable. I'm wife material. I'm lovely. I'm blonde. I'm tall. You know, whatever. I can, that one person, depending upon who the person is and what they particularly trip in me, if they don't find me lovable or desirable, I carry that. And I think if even if 7 other people think I'm lovely and desirable, it doesn't necessarily translate. And so I'm wondering, like, Jim is somebody who I have like such an affection for, and I feel a closeness for, and I'm hard pressed to think of anything I could go through, however lumped or something that yoga taught us, I might feel like if I for some reason was giving birth and Jim was here, I would be like, get the towels, Jim, get in position. I would just feel like I could trust him implicitly. I feel safe with him. I don't feel judged. I trust his judgment. I think even if I maybe wouldn't agree with it, I wouldn't think it would come from a bad place. I feel very, very safe with him and being very exposed. But I wonder, does that matter or does that help? Not because I don't matter as much as BJ, but does it, when something particular gets tripped by a particular person, I don't know, I'm right there where I feel like I need that person to release me from their opinion of me or the way they saw me. I need to cure like that thing. I need my father to have wanted me. It's great if other people like me, but I still need this poor man who's been dead for like 12 years to love and want me. I don't know that anything substitutes. Does it, Lynn? Does it, BJ, Jim? Everybody?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think we have to be careful to try to go deeper because I think that, I think, I don't know, on one hand, I wonder whether this issue with, Jim and BJ does something for the group. There's a lot of, there's a lot of there. And then I think we're trying to, I think, I mean, I personally think, I mean, they're both here, wonderful. We are, the lottery, we won $2 billion. Why, why dig it in? Just leave it alone. I mean, they push each other's buttons. It's hard to untangle. They're both here, wonderful. So, because I think, I think we've gone some deeper, and then maybe we should leave it alone because if we try, we might, step on trouble. But I don't know. That's me, I guess.
But leaving it alone is different than pretending it's not there. And to me, it's triggering when, say, BJ addresses me as if we have no history. Like, oh, Jim, I wanted to ask you about this. I just met you a few moments ago, and I'd like to ask you something. And she didn't meet me just a few moments ago. And it's triggering to me to be addressed as if she did.
I wonder, Jim, what I was going to say, which I think is the wrong thing to say, but what I was going to say is, I wonder if you could just try addressing BJ in that way, just see how it feels to address her, even though you feel like you're not allowed. That's what I was going to say, but I think that's not helpful. I think maybe you might have a feeling of what would be helpful. Roberto says, let's leave it alone. Rachel says, oh, it's this deep primal thing. I know it. I feel it. We have to accept that deep primal thing. Susan is encouraging us to recognize, and there's a lovely clip of Susan saying it's a wound that we don't ignore, but you can't fix it. We have to just acknowledge that we have this wound. So I'm wondering, Jim, if you have a sense of what would help.
Well, sometimes I have a sense, other times I don't. I mean, historically, for me, I remember as a kid not being accepted the way I was, but I was supposed to be some other way. And if I was angry about something and it wasn't completed for me, but it was time for dinner, well, we're just supposed to sit down at the table and pretend that nobody's angry and we're a family eating dinner. And I had difficulty doing that. I think part of my difficulty was I was too angry to pull it off. But so to me, I think that BJ and I should be able to discuss this. It doesn't have to be alone. We could have 11 other people or whatever, but I don't know that 11 other people would want to be there for it. But I think this is something that we should try and work out instead of pretending doesn't exist.
But I mean, it's coming from you. I mean, Susan said it's the one who brought up, you and him and BJ today. It wasn't like you said something or BJ something. So it's coming from a different place. I mean, I'm all by, if you guys want to talk it out, I can be there. Not a problem. There's something, there's something I wanted to say. I mean, if I can have maybe in a little while, like a couple minutes, but something different than this. I don't want to move on to different topic, but I wanted to say something. But I don't know, anybody else want to comment?
Well, I'm in the camp where, you know, if you're really looking at baseline, nothing is ever safe. So I kind of enter everything with a frame of it's going to be uncomfortable, and then I just immediately, without thinking afterwards, I'll do a very quick, like 1 to 5. Was it 1 is a failure and 5 is a success? And and I try to learn from like where things land in there. And tonight, the interchange, I heard something, something move between or from Susan being curious about Jim and BJ, if I remember right. And then initially I heard something move, and it really helped me. When BJ said she just didn't want to be in a place where a very specific thing happens with confidentiality. And it helped me to realize, like, I just don't want to be in breakout groups where the other person goes ahead and acts out by saying to me something negative about another group member who's here. And then I'm left holding that. So it kind of helped me get more specific. And I think there was movement. I see something positive, and I don't know if we all need to say it, but I'm here and will listen, with my whole self, if any two people want to discuss something.
I think to use Marvin's word, the specificity of your not wanting to be in a breakout room with someone who says something negative about another person and then be holding it. Sort of, it's very helpful because it's so specific.
I'm just
I
wanting
love
to check how BJ's doing, because BJ shared with us earlier she had really low energy. She's really sick. And now we're making this all about her and Jim. And it just feels really terrible to me that we're doing this to her. Like, I don't mind checking in once in a while, but maybe today wasn't the right time. And I wonder if we should just like parking lot it.
I said a few years back, I'm never leaving this group because no matter how many mashed potatoes we throw at each other, we're the family watching TV at night. And that's kind of how I feel right now. I don't feel any mashed potatoes have been thrown. I feel sad. I feel sad for Jim. And I hope that, I hope that, you could help me understand why you would do that. What you did.
Why I would do what?
With Monica. Why you would give Monica that video of me acting out. And that she says for you, it's just a way of sharing. It's not breaking confidentiality. And I don't understand that. So, maybe, I'm open to understanding it.
Could I just understand what happened? Just right.
Well, what happened was
Monica told you that Jim had given her the video of you
acting out a couple of months ago, and I don't want to confront Jim and say, "Did you?"
A couple of months ago?
She said that you had given her the video where I acted out here in the group and said,
Oh, I didn't give it to her. She happens to know the forced password. It's not exactly a secret password. Everybody who's ever been enforced knows the password for every year.
Did you and she talk about it?
No,
Really?
I haven't spoken to Monica in months.
Well, I appreciate it that you didn't give it to her. I really do. I like that. See, that's a very simple thing. That's very helpful.
Yeah. Wow.
I just am curious, does she go and look at every single video of everything that happens because she knows the password?
I wouldn't know.
I mean, it's not that I don't believe you,
If she,
but
if she told you, I showed her the video, you can ask her that, because clearly you're more in contact with her than I am.
that's because she told me you put us together, that you paired us in Help for Helpers twice.
I would never do that.
Really?
When I do breakout rooms, I just do them at random. I usually don't look who goes with who. So if I paired you, it just the luck of the draw.
Two weeks in a row. And she said it was because you were,
I've been with the same person 4 weeks in a row, and it's just random.
but she said it. She said that you were doing that on purpose.
Well,
Because-
that's her
because you
opinion.
wanted
It's not my
something
opinion.
something between us to get resolved or something.
That's her opinion. I did
Well,
not do that.
You don't mind if I check that out with her, do you?
How would she know? She doesn't do the breakout rooms.
She said you told her.
All right.
Can I just say, only because for those of us who have been with Monica before in the other group, I don't even know how she's not getting here. It's just like, what happened,
I want to say one more thing.
please?
You know, climbers and swimmers, that program that she thought up here.
Yeah, I mean, swim anchors and swimmers.
And she so wanted us to do it and we wouldn't do
I know.
it. And Tiffy let her do it and I attended and it was fabulous.
Oh,
I would like to say, and I want to say back to you, Isabel, when you said earlier tonight that you didn't see us in putting into practice experientially the kinds of things Lynn wrote about, I think that's a little short-sighted because I do. I see it in every one of us. We are practicing. Jim and I.
No, I agree. What I'd say, and maybe I didn't say it clear enough, BJ, is that in the moment, like look this interaction right now, right? That's an example. In this moment, the tighter bits about the teachings, we're not bringing those in and maybe, and Lynn has heard me say this, we're not labeling those pieces where the intersectionality of the teaching and the emotion come to life. I am definitely putting the skills to use after the fact. And I am speaking for more in the moment of putting the skill to use. And I think that right now, I'm going to say this and it's 8 o'clock and I have to go. So it's not a doorknob kind of thing. This is right now, as much as Roberto say, and maybe someone else say, okay, let's not go back there, let's parking lot this. This is the best moment that I've seen between you and Jim, where actually you are getting to what the root of the whatever conflict was. Like I can see Jim kind of like, what? They told you that? And you saying, yes, they told me, you know. And I know no one is throwing mashed potato right now, but I think that this is the moment. And I wish that this is the moment where we, all of us then can see a little, I don't know, subtitle to it. You know what I mean? Like, and this is how force can be useful. And that's what I always say. I don't feel like happens enough here. Not that we're not learning skill, but that kind of in the moment teaching doesn't happen.
that seems like a good closing remark that you feel like we're doing it. But does anybody else have another closing remark before we stop?
Well,
You
I'd
know,
like,
Go ahead, Rachel.
First, I just would love to know what the subtitle would be called if Isabel could name it, of like what just happened and can we name it? And then I wanted to say, I'm aware Roberto had wanted to say something a while ago and held off, so maybe we could hear that as well.
Again, I mean, I guess there was a shift. I felt like, there was a shift. So, and I was happy about it between Jim and BJ, you know. I don't know what the title will be, but I mean, I felt that. But I just also wanted to say, Annette, I'm really longing to sometime to be able to do the partnership with you. I know it's been 3 times that we attempted and it didn't work out. I mean, couldn't find the time, and I know that after the second time you had reached me, and then you seem to have more time after after it was several weeks after, and I didn't get back to you. But then the third time happened, and I didn't reach out to you because I said, oh, she's not going to be available, and I was kind of personalized at times, and
And I
she
wasn't
doesn't want
getting
to do.
the emails because of the gaggle thing.
Okay.
And I wasn't even
So,
realizing, like where that I should be needing to know who my partner was. It was just like, psh,
Mm.
gone.
so anyway, but I was just feeling left out, and such, Anyway, just wanted to say that.
Let's connect. Well, I'll send you an email.
Yes.
Okay. I'm afraid it's time to stop, and I think a lot of people have things to say, but don't forget them. Jot them down.
I'm just gonna say, wow, I thought it was a good session, a good 2 hours.
Is it possible to change the password? Because I'm a little concerned if this is what happens, that people who are not in the group can have access to it. Then that's something, and I think we talked a little bit about that at the beginning of this conversation. Maybe we need to rectify that, and every new group gets a new password. I mean,
Well,
I'm
it is
not
a new
avoiding.
password. It's just
Yeah,
the
but
year changes. And if
but
you've
it
been
needs to
enforced
be-
2 years in a row or 3 years in a row, you know how the password changes.
It needs to be random, like monkey or something, so that
The problem is
you
that
don't know the animal.
people do not go to the website at all, and they're always asking me what the password is. And so if it was something really weird, I might as well not have a website.
Well, I think we do, and I think it's a really good idea to change passwords. And they can they can ask me too what password is. Okay.
Let's
too.
change
We can
it
do
to the
together.
word that Yoka taught us tonight. No one will guess that. I can't even
You're
remember what
obsessed
it
with that word.
is.
Hey, Yoka, give
Yes.
me write that word down
Yeah, put it in the
and
chat.
email it to me, and that's
Send
going
it
to
to
be
us.
our
That's so
password
sweet.
from now on.
Excellent,
I
excellent.
love that.
I got one request. If you want to hear that song, if you want to stay over and somebody would make me co-host, I have it right here on the screen. So if anybody wants to stay.
Sure.
Sure.
I have to go though.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anything I need to do being co-host besides just hit play?
No, you're gonna have to share your sound, and also choose original sound for musician. Make sure that it's on. So you're gonna share computer sound.
Where do I find that?
When you say share your screen at the bottom, there's gonna
Oh,
be like
yes.
click both of those things.
Multiple participants can share?
No, not that one, the sound piece. Once you find your song and you're ready to share it, then there's gonna be like 2 little boxes that say share sound.
There it is. So,
Yes.
so what do I need to do?
After you click both of those boxes, just hit play.
Sorry,
Hit play on your song.
it's playing right now.
Okay, but did you share your screen?
Okay, if I go to share screen,
There it is.
There it is.
Oh,
Are you playing it?
Karen.
Because you have to share the sound.
Can
We don't
anybody
hear
hear
it.
it?
No, we
No,
don't
we
hear
can't
it.
hear it
No.
because you haven't shared the sound.
Okay, hang on, I'm gonna get it.
Okay, you will.
And where does she go to share the sound?
You have to stop share, BJ, and then when you reshare it, there's a checkbox at the bottom. So stop the screen share first.
Okay.
Yeah, and then redo it, but this time check the boxes at the bottom.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Isabel. I got it now. I got it. Okay.
Okay, good.
Can anybody hear it?
Yeah.
Hear
Yes.
it. Great job.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you that you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul, to my soul. How could anyone ever?
And she goes on and on and on and on. Because
Thank you.
Thank you.
it's beautiful.
Heard that
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.